One other part of a definitive agreement in an M&A transaction is something called defined terms or definitions. You can think of that really as a mini dictionary for the deal. And lawyers put a lot of interesting stuff in the definitions. One thing they do is try and actually, and maybe to your surprise, they try and abbreviate things in the document. So let's say you have a concept like environmental laws, and there are 30 or 50 laws that would fall under the umbrella of environmental laws. Rather than referring to all 50 of those laws every time that concept comes up in the document, they'll define a term, environmental laws, to include, and then they'll list all those documents, all those acts or laws in the defined terms section. And then they can just very efficiently use the phrase environmental laws throughout the agreement. And everybody knows exactly what that term means. So there's an efficiency component to the definitions. But there's also something that can be a little bit more complex where you have a concept. Let's say here's a good one, knowledge, the knowledge of the seller. What does that mean? And case law might tell you that knowledge of a corporate entity means one thing, and the parties might not want to rely on case law or how a court would decide what it means. So they define specifically what they intend for it to mean, the knowledge of particular individuals, and they'll put their actual names or their titles in the document. And often in connection with knowledge, we'll go a step further. It's not just their actual knowledge, but it's also the knowledge that they would be expected to know for any reasonable person in that same position. Or it might be the knowledge they have after due diligence, reasonable diligence on the question. And this puts a different kind of spin on what the term means in sort of common usage. So as you read it through the document, you're like, does anybody know this? And you think that's the whole test, but that's not really the test. The test is, have they also conducted the diligence? Have they been careful to the level that they have to be based on, what words are used in the definition? So in any event, it's one of those other areas where your practitioner really ought to be advising you as to which definitions are critically important for you to review and consider, whether you really understand them and how they interact in the agreement. Make sure you don't let something slip through the cracks.